Good morning. Welcome to week 8 in my indoor food gardening journey. Before I get right into the tour, I'm going to give you guys a little recap of what's going on. Before your recap, the little supervisor man came running when he heard me turn the camera on. He did not want to miss out on today's weekly update video. Good morning, everyone. Excuse my terrible voice. I've been quite sick for several days now. I was just attempting to do some plant care. I haven't done much in the last few days, and I found another plant that has passed away, sadly. This is a bell pepper plant, and it was in one container that had drainage holes since it was repotted. I don't know what to think of this. I can't blame the situation on the drainage because there were definitely drainage holes. I don't think it was overwatered. It feels lightly moist, doesn't feel saturated, and I don't think it was underwatered. I'm clueless as to why some of these plants have been passing away. I don't think it's a watering issue. I don't think it's a drainage issue, and I don't even think that particular plant had a bug issue. So I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a light issue. That little plant was in this windowsill with those 3 neighboring plants that are all doing well. I believe it was the first one that I repotted out of all my bell peppers, and it kicked the bucket. I recently had a couple people comment that I should try using diatomaceous earth for my bug problem. So I actually do have some. This was from an outdoor garden issue I had years ago, and I think it was with ants, and I actually don't know that this worked, but we're gonna give it a try since I've got nothing to lose. We're going to put it in some of my food garden and see what happens to the bugs. Good morning. It's been about 4 days since I last gave you guys a little update on my indoor gardening experiment. I have some very disappointing news to share. I came in here, peeked at my window, and saw this poor cucumber plant that was the star of the show for a few weeks. Looks like it's either dead or mostly dead. Let's take a closer look at what's going on. It actually did have another leaf that I just plucked off, but it was looking absolutely terrible. So what I can see is it's completely wilted over, and I'm going to put this down here. This is another topic we're going to discuss. That's for another video. Let's take a look at what's going on with this cucumber plant. So clearly it is totally wilted over, and this doesn't even feel viable anymore. Actually, I thought there might be a hope of saving it, but I don't think so. I think it is totally gone. Pulling it out, saying farewell to this poor cucumber plant. I am getting pretty discouraged with the amount of plant tragedies that I've had, but it's all okay because even 1 or 2 successes will make up for all of the tragedies. So I still have one viable cucumber plant. Let me show you. Right over here, back in the window, this is my super slow growing cucumber plant. Don't ask me why those 2 were planted at the same time. And this one has been growing slower than a snail, but it's alive and it is still doing pretty well, so that is good. However, I'm well aware that a majority of plants do need a second plant for pollination or a second plant for a good crop, regardless of pollination. So that means only one thing. It is time to start over with the cucumber seeds. Going to start again and going to do things a little bit different this time than the first try. around since the beginning of my series, you will remember I started the cucumber seeds in here. I started 4 seeds in these huge pots, hoping not to transplant them, and only 2 sprouted. We're doing things quite a bit different this time. I am only planting in pots with drainage this time. I have had success in years gone by planting in pots with no drainage, but for whatever reason, this year is not one of those years. It was really only with tomato and basil plants that I was successful planting with no drainage, but this time things just aren't working out in my favor, so we're going back to the old school garden principles and using pots with drainage. I'm planting in these tiny little pots instead of a big pot, kind of starting from scratch. The way things probably should have been done to begin with. So hopefully we have more success this time. Here's where my 2 little cucumber planters are going to live until they become bigger plants. Since I've been having a lot of poor results with many of my plants, even the ones that are doing well or start out doing well, I've made a drastic decision and I'm taking out all of my pots that do not have drainage holes, and we're repotting every single plant that is still alive, whether it's doing well or not. It is getting repotting. I'm not sure about my starter trays. I might leave some of those little ones still. I haven't fully decided. Not going to show you the whole process. I've showed you several times already. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm finished, and fingers crossed, giving them all drainage holes allows for a lot more success. Many of my onions rotted. I overwatered them last week and a lot of them were toast. So I started fresh. I only have 1 or 2 originals and the rest were store-bought green onions. Once again, I know they grow well. The main problem is don't overwater them. You can probably tell looking in here what is new and what is original. Zooming in a little closer. This one right here was one of my originals that did not perish. I think I have 1 more in here. Not 100% certain, but the rest were just added a few days ago. And if you watched the beginning of this video, you saw my little episode with the diatomaceous earth. You can still see remnants. That is not mold, that is diatomaceous earth. And I'm still regretting trying that experiment, but that's okay. I'll be getting rid of this sooner than later. So that's the status of my onions. Moving into the strawberry planter, I also put diatomaceous earth in here. Again, one of the experiments that I'm always happy to try an experiment, but I will say that one was a fail. I will definitely not be putting diatomaceous earth in any more planters. Was not the best idea, honestly. And a lot of my strawberries are not doing well now. Some of them weren't before, but it coated the leaves and I've been washing them almost every day to try to get this stuff off. So that was not one of my best moves, but it's all fine. It was an experiment and that is important. I mean, they're not doing terrible, but they could definitely be doing better. Moving into the window, I did a super harsh pruning on my biggest basil plant, the one right here. I was just getting so tired of my bug problem, which actually did slightly migrate onto my biggest one. It only had a few, but I wasn't taking any chances. I did a big chop. So now that I'm looking at it, I still see some of these pesky little eggs. But that's okay. It's a work in progress and I'm still eating the basil, so that's all that matters. Just giving it a good wash, although I probably don't need to. I could just get that extra protein. I think it would be good for the body. Moving into this little planter, this was transplanted, I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago, this little tiny tomato plant, and it really didn't do well within the first like
24 hours and I almost pulled it out, but I decided to leave it. I think it's actually rebounding extremely slowly, but I'm going to leave it because it seems to be going in the right direction. So that is good news. And into my little seed trays. This is my cucumber plant, my super tiny one that's been growing so slowly, and it's the only one I have right now. You saw what happened earlier in the video. I did replant the seeds, but no sprouts yet. Moving along, more more bell pepper sprouts. These were the originals, not the baby ones. None of the baby ones from last week have sprouted, but there's still a tomato plant and more bell peppers on the way. The zucchini I put in here, I'm gonna say that was 2 weeks ago, might have been a week ago, has not sprouted. Moving right along to something I have not really talked about or showed you in a while. I am doing another planting experiment right here. Now, some of you might be leaving me some interesting comments with this experiment, but let me explain. So these, which might look like sticks to you, and in many ways they are, these are actually cuttings from my Desert King fig tree. I did a pruning in a recent video, and I decided to save the cuttings. I know you can root figs. I've had a terrible time rooting them outside. Every attempt has failed. Not that I need more fig trees here, but in the future, if I move to a different garden in the next couple of years, I may want to take some trees with me. So I decided to attempt to root them inside. This whole experiment was inspired by food forest permaculture. Howie is the king of fig growing, so hopefully this works. I did not use any rooting hormones. I literally stuck my cuttings into the soil. These pots are going to be for my cucumbers if they ever make it to that stage, but for now, they are for my fig cuttings. Moving into the windowsill here. Here are all of the pots that I transplanted. You would have seen earlier in the week. They're all alive as far as I know and doing totally fine. No issues going on, so that makes me super happy. There's one change this week that I haven't talked about yet in terms of my plant room. Aside from the major repotting that I did one very tiny but significant change. Let me show you. Here's the thermostat, and I showed this a few weeks ago that it was on, I believe it was 18 or 19 degrees. Well, I put it up to 20. It's only a tiny difference, but I think it makes a significant difference. Moving back into the window up here. These are more of the transplants. All of these were repotted in the repotting video earlier in the week, and they're all doing fine. The ones that had eggshells from whatever week that was, I left them in when I repotted so I could tell which week that was from. And the ones that didn't have eggshells didn't get any fresh eggshells, so I can identify, going back in my videos, what week I put the eggshells into these plants to see how they compare to the ones that don't have eggshells. And once again, they're all doing fine. I purposely put them in these windows instead of my window over here because I thought one of the mistakes I might have made in the previous weeks is giving them too much sunlight right after repotting. So this time I decided to put them in a little bit more of a part shade location and hope that they do better. And so far, I would say it's been a success. Thank you for tuning in to today's indoor gardening update.
I have a very special surprise coming this December related to my indoor food gardening journey. You're not going to want to miss it. I can't wait. It's something I have never experienced, but it's definitely in the realm of indoor food gardening. I hope you're having a lovely day, evening, night, wherever you are, and we will see you very soon with another video. Bye for now.